My name is Stephen Middleton. I'm a mass media lecturer, traveler, and documentary filmmaker living in Kentucky. I have spent the last decade traveling with my camera, documenting interesting stories, and with that, interesting people. As a kid, I spent a lot of time riding in the backseat of my parents' car as we moved across the country. I remembered seeing drive-in theaters on the outskirts of town. As you approach, you see the glow of the screen against the dark sky. People in lawn chairs on the rooftops of their cars. It all seemed like something out of another era. Despite my fascination of drive-ins, I never attended one as a kid, but always looked at the giant screens with excitement as we drove past. The fascination continued into my adult years, but the excitement changed to sadness. Many of the drive-ins I passed seemed closed for business, brought to their demise by television and multiplexes. I began to question how many of these relics were still left, and how had they managed to prosper? What keeps people coming back year after year? To answer the many questions, I hit the road to see what the experience was like. The people, the owners, the fun. So join me as I head across the state. You'll meet the one-of-a-kind people who make the drive-in experience possible. Don't forget, the show starts at dawn. To plot out the location of drive-ins to feature, I mentioned the project to a friend. I was put in touch with Chris Irwin. Chris is a radio DJ by day and a drive-in operator by night. I drove from Mount Sterling, Kentucky, and meandered out a picturesque bluegrass setting on Highway 11 to the wonderful Judy Drive-In. Chris was waiting on me, ready to show me around.
The drive-in theater has always been, in my opinion, about good movies, good food, and good times with people you love. I remember going to the drive-in as a kid. My first drive-in theater experience was the Moorhead Drive-In, which is now the location of Robert Elementary School. And my parents took me there to watch Gremlins when I was in second grade. And I was just so amazed. I loved going to the theater, but the drive-in was something else. You had this larger-than-life screen, you had the snack bar, you were in your car or around your car, and it was just a totally different way of enjoying a movie. Well, in college, I worked in an indoor theater, and to make a little extra money, I helped the guy that delivered films to theaters. So sometimes he would drop films off at our theater, and I would drop them off at other theaters so he wouldn't have to make the extra trips. So I was at the Judy Drive-In, the Mountain View Drive-In, the Skyview Drive-In, sometimes the Bourbon Drive-In. I got to know these people, and I went to the Judy Drive-In as a college student and enjoyed it. For some reason, this drive-in I liked better than the other drive-ins. I don't know why. I can't explain it. It's just something about this place. And when the owners expressed a desire to move on and do something else and the property become for sale, I was notified. My family bought it in 2002, and I became manager here when I was 25 and been here ever since. Judy Drive-In Theater was built in 1952. At this time in Montgomery County, we had some indoor theaters, and across town they were building the Highway Drive-In, and it was announced that the Highway Drive-In would be coming the fall of '52. Well, a group of business people got together and they decided that they were going to build the Judy Drive-In. So what they did was they got the jump on the Highway Drive-In And the Judy Drive-In started construction in the spring of '52, was completed and started its first shows July 2nd, 1952. Its first weekend was July 4th of 1952. And that's where we take the Grand Lady's birthday, July 4th, because that was the first Friday they were open. Actually, they were open on a Wednesday with a program. Texas Carnival was the first feature that was showed here. The location is perfect for the Judy Drive-In. Ideally, drive-in theaters need to be out of town enough to not let the growing city encroach upon it, yet close enough it could be driven to from a lot of different places. We are blessed, we're 3 miles from Interstate 64. So for people coming into the Mount Sterling area, into the Judy Drive-In, it's very easy to find, very easy to get to. And with the lack of drive-in theaters in the area, that's important that people be able to locate and find you very quickly and get to you within, a reasonable drive. We've got people from Huntington, West Virginia, places in Ohio. We are the closest drive-in theater to them, and so they're coming and seeing us, and it's really a treat to have these people to come in and visit us here in Mount Sterling. I love it.
Starts, we'll have those in the concession stand. Thank you for being with us here at the Judy Drive-In Theater tonight, where we're going to the dog.
Well, a lot of places, the common story is the land the drive-in theater was on was more valuable for commercial purposes. Owners would retire, wouldn't find a buyer for it, didn't have maybe children to continue it on. And with the advent of digital, a lot of other theaters, they didn't want to make the investment or didn't want to make the transition over, so they just shuttered their theater. And other people use that as a good time to retire. And with those factors, there's still a few of us that are out, still getting it, and enjoy it. And you have to enjoy this business to do it. It's not something that you're going to make a lot of money off of anymore. Back in the heyday of drive-in theaters, it was a gold mine. There wasn't a lot of opportunities for people to get at this kind of entertainment. The movie of the week, if there was a movie of the week on one of the 3 channels you could receive, was maybe years old. That was back before Redbox and satellite and VHS and everything that we come to know today. And of course, now that even sounds funny saying that VHS is old. We're on Blu-ray and 4K, and you can get that in your home now and stream your entertainment a lot of times. And you have to compete with that nowadays, and a lot of theaters haven't found their niche or haven't found the right person to continue on with it. Drive-in theaters can be successful and they can be popular. You just have to have the right mix of ownership, location, and a good population to draw from. But not to say it can't be done, because we're here and the people are supporting us, and as long as they are coming and we can make a small profit, we're not greedy people. We want to just keep this place open. Car shows, we still do car shows every year. Love it. With the Carter County Cruisers, the club I'm affiliated with, proudly. I mean, we've been doing it ever since we've done car shows here at the Judy, which go back to about the 2nd or 3rd year we had the drive-in. John Bailey was down here for a movie one night, and he won the door prize. And that's how I actually met him. I'm originally from Olive Hill, lived in Olive Hill for the first 2 or 3 years we had the theater, and then I moved down here.
If you don't get butterflies before you hit the button, there's something wrong. Because it's just about dark. You got everybody sitting there waiting, and it's on you, buddy. And you make your announcements, you fire it up, and I always breathe a little sigh of relief when I see the lamp strike, I hear the audio come over on the soundtrack, and then there's a picture on the screen. I'm like, there we go. Oh, you're certainly welcome.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Judy Drive-In Theater, Mount Sterling, Kentucky. Happy to have each and every one of you with us tonight. It's a great night for the drive-in, and we're glad that you're with us. A lot of first-time visitors with us. I know we've got some people that coming here for the first time from Lexington. I believe the Huntington-Ashland area, we've got some first-timers too. Glad that you're here. Hope that you enjoy yourself and you make the Judy Drive-In your home drive-in. Two great features in store for you.
It's kind of hard to gauge what the weather's going to do, but your attendance in the summertime is very good. If you've got a good movie people want to see, and when you've got that magic lineup where the weather and the movies align, this whole field will be full of families and people enjoying themselves, and that's what we live for, those nights where we can have a good crowd on hand and just entertain, feed people, let them have a good evening.
Chris put me in touch with the owner of the Bourbon Drive-In, Trish Earlywine. Trish and her family have run a drive-in on Highway 68, just outside of Paris, Kentucky, for over 40 years.
As a child, I never really got to go to the drive-in because be honest with you, I'll tell you, the first car date I ever had was at this drive-in. And it was not with my husband. And my daddy told me, he said, you have to be home by 10 o'clock. I was at home at 9:30. We didn't even get through the first movie. Needless to say, he never asked me out again. But then I met my husband in Carlisle at the Little Blackberry Festival, and we dated from the time I was 18. I married very young. I was 19, so I started coming here with him. Of course, he did bring me here at the drive-in and stuff like that, so we enjoyed it. But as far as a child, I didn't have any memories. I just love movies, so I kind of fit in. It was as close as I was going to get to Hollywood. My name's Patricia Earlywine, and then I've been here since the early '80s continuously. But I was affiliated with it prior to that. Well, it's actually opened in July of '56, and like I said, it was started by a group of people. I think there was 5 of them out of Cynthiana, Harrison County, and they ran it in all those years. And my father-in-law started pretty much managing it from after the first week, Everett and Helen Earlywine, and they managed it for all those years, and then they bought it in June of '74. So, and then my husband and I worked here, and then his brother and wife, one of his children, they would help out. So it's been a family affair all these years. But then my husband and I purchased it in May of '94. So it's been a journey, been a long journey, been a drive. It gets in your blood. I think a lot of it goes back, like I said earlier, my father-in-law and mother-in-law, Everett and Helen Earlywine, they basically maintain this drive-in, and we tried to maintain it the same way they do. It's always been well maintained and looked after, but it is, like we say, the only entertainment of this nature in this area, and we do draw from other areas. But I just think it's because it's just something that people went to, and that generation, I know the technology's come in, a lot of the younger people, they have different venues, but you know what, I'm starting to see more young people. So I think we have survived, and a lot of it too is because we're not year-round, and they don't get burned out of us. We come and we go. Like I told you earlier, kind of like the fair. So the novelty's still there. The most cars we've ever had in here was 400, and that's parking them on the side. I think speaker post wise, and that's public knowledge, I think it's like 376, somewhere in that ballpark. But that was one time my husband, when his daddy was alive, we were playing a movie, and I think it was Twister or Lion King. They were huge. And he said, Lanny, he says, I don't think you can get more in here. He said, Dad, just see what I can do. And he had it packed. But usually, those are just reserved for certain movies. They're like what they call a blockbuster. No different than what an indoor theater would do. They have their blockbusters, you know. And then, like you say, the weather can determine how many people show up. But like I said, we got Incredibles coming. We've got this Jurassic World. And I kind of think maybe Halloween might do a little something this fall because they're bringing back Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm excited about that one. And so, you know, you've got a handful that's going to go over the top. I keep a record. If you want to know what the weather was like 20 years ago, my mother-in-law kept like little, in a book, little journal like. I keep everything. I can tell you what, and I do use it. It's really helped me a lot. And being a country girl, you can actually look at the sky and you know what's coming. When them clouds get dark right over there, it's coming from Harrison, it's coming our way. And it may go through, that's Nicholas County, but if it goes all the way around and then comes back, then you got trouble. You're sitting for the night. But I keep a record of all that, rain and AM, PM, what happened. And we do get a lot of rain, but it doesn't necessarily mean we get rained out. It could be 50% rain, but it could rain in town and not touch us, and it rains for 15 minutes. So yeah, I'm the kind of the weather girl too. They tell me I kind of overthink the weather sometimes, but I'm like, Chris, hey, that's our livelihood. If you're gonna work, have a job, it's work. You better like what you do. And I've always liked what I do. It's been a joy. And I can't imagine doing anything else. It's our whole life. It kind of consumes you. But it is a place too, I might add. It's one of the last places that families can come to where they can go back in history. And as a lot of these drive-ins like myself that are standing, we reflect that 50 era, which most people like. I don't think they would like it if you came in here and made everything brand new. So it's a place where families can come. What I've noticed, I would have a family and their little kid would be sitting here on the counter. And then a few years, they'd be here. And then they would be coming on dates. They wouldn't want their mother with them anymore because they had a date. But now I'm seeing those kids are bringing their children. They want them to experience something they experience. So it sort of kind of evolves that way. Bourbon Drive-In Theater. Oh gosh. It's kind of like a family member. Like I told you, I know the date that we bought it and all that. And I'm not going to sit up here and tell you don't have worries. Oh yeah. And my husband, he's the one that always says, you worry too much, don't worry about it until something happens. And I've become better at that. But, oh gosh, there's just been a lot of fun for me. Knowing the people, these are like family. And I had a young man about 2 weeks ago that hadn't been here for a while, moved away, and he just reached over and gave me a hug. And and then I had another gentleman came in here last weekend, and he told me, he said, he said Everett would be proud, So it's just fun, and I think it might be the oldest business left in Bourbon County. So we've been blessed that we've been supported by them in surrounding counties, and that we've met friends from hours away. And like I said, they may not be able to come every weekend, but they come when they can, But it's my life. We don't do anything. Like I said, no vacations, you don't go anywhere. It takes presence over everything else. And it's so funny, people that worked here, and they had little kids. Well, I had a gentleman in there years ago, did 35, and his wife worked this was when Everett owned it. She worked in the concession, and he raised those 3 kids. He paid pallets on that floor, and they slept right there. So, it's a family affair. It really is. It's been fun, and I can't imagine doing anything else. And I can't imagine it going away. So we're here until somebody says we can't anymore. When you walk out on that field and you hear the laughter, and you'll see that sometimes in an indoor, people stand up, but I have seen a couple of times where people just applauded. Oh my gosh, the joy that makes you feel, but the laughter is amazing. And we all need that. It gets them endorphins going. But there's just been a lot of fun things.
So after all these years, do you still get goosebumps?
Oh, yes.
On a big night?
Always. I will to the day I die.
Both Chris and Trish mentioned the recently closed down Mountain View Drive-In, just a few towns away in Stanton, Kentucky. I thought the owner, David Baker, who had run the drive-in since 1959, could provide a unique perspective on the past and future of drive-ins.
So how many years did you run the drive-in here?
Since '59.
What year did you stop running it?
In '16. I'm David Baker. Back in the mid-50s, I was in the military. I came in on leave, and a first cousin of mine and two other investors had this drive-in, and I was over visiting him, and he asked me to make a trip to Cincinnati with him to buy film. I made a trip with him, just kind of fell in love with the idea. Come over and proceeded to run it. And that's how I first started into the business, and eventually bought the other half. The thing that probably stands out the most, when I talk to people, and of course when I first closed it especially, a lot of them came around and talked to me. The thing that we talked about the most was them slipping in. The different times, the way they had slipped in, and the interesting part is they remembered that more than any other part. Early on, we had a lot of stage shows. I think Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs were here once, and that was the biggest group I ever had.
You said you had Bill Monroe out here?
I had him several times. Natural Bridge being up here, and we had people that come here, especially in latter years, every summer looking forward to, while they're at Natural Bridge or in this area visiting their relatives, to come to the drive-in. And I'm still getting phone calls wanting to know about the drive-in. And that's been closed over a year.
Yeah. Was it hard for you to stop running the drive-in?
Well, yes and no. I miss it a lot. But it was getting to be quite a hassle. I was a hands-on type guy. I was there at the drive-in most of the time. Number one, I'm now 84. I was about 82 then. It would have been about, well, in the neighborhood of $150,000 to convert. And my screens were getting old, and this, what's left out here, this screen, is the original. I've enjoyed it. It's something you either love or you couldn't pin the hours that it requires if you didn't really. And it was a pleasure to see people and hear people having a good time, to me.
After telling someone about my ongoing search for all the drive-ins in Kentucky, they were quick to mention the one they attended as a kid in Stanford, Kentucky. Owned by local realtor Denise Pike. Denise, a savvy business person, not only runs a drive-in, but also a weekend flea market on the property, just outside of Stanford on Highway 78.
I think it was started in the 1950s. It used to be called the Davis Drive-In. The Davises live next door here and they run it. And then I believe that Linda Downs and Danny Spangler owned it after that, and then Cherry and Lloyd Wineland, and then me. My name is Denise Pike, and I bought the drive-in in October of 2010. And then in 2015, we had to remodel due to the projector issue and go digital. I just get a lot of people that come in and ask about the digital, and they ask me, you know, they say to me, we're just glad that you decided and found a way to keep it open and running, because we really enjoy it. We have people from
far away come. I enjoy it. It's a lot of work, but I enjoy it, and I enjoy watching people have a lot of fun here. We all just have a lot of fun in the concession stand, and not one certain thing. We just enjoy it all together. And family is usually the only people that work for me. The biggest crowd that we have had was when it came out. They were actually backed up 2 miles from each side to get in out here, and we had a sellout. But we've had sellouts on different movies. I just think it was the biggest crowd that had the backup on it. We do still have the speaker. Yeah, and the crowd likes the speakers still. They're always one to, use the speaker. Well, I feel like we have a good, clean area for everybody to come in, and we always do good on the health issues here with the health department. We keep it nice, and it's a friendly, clean environment to enjoy a night out with your family.
Just outside of Greensburg, Kentucky lies the Skyline Drive-In, nestled in the Summersville community among rural pastures and farmland. The drive-in straddles the line between Eastern Standard and Central Time, which can be confusing for the out-of-town moviegoer, myself included. I met up with Mike and Christy Goodrum, who have been running the drive-in since 2013. I sat down with Mike for an interview and also had the privilege to speak with Trent Ford, whose family owned and operated the drive-in dating back to the 1950s.
Just that this has been definitely a staple of Greene County, Kentucky for longer than definitely I've been alive, and probably even my parents. Didn't even know about it until my wife and I were hired to take it on and manage it. And I can honestly say, because of it, we've met a lot of awfully nice people, made a lot of friends. And it's just one of those gems that you never know is there until somebody probably brings you out. And I always find every weekend somebody, we didn't know this place is here, but we're coming back. My name is Mike Goodrum. I've been running Skyline Drive-In since the summer season of 2016. We have been blessed with a really good staff of friendly people that work hard. They do a great job. We're big on fresh food, quality service, customer care. We try and serve everybody as quick as we can with the freshest amount and the best product we can. And we don't pre-cook, we don't pre-pack, we try and keep it as fresh as possible. Sometimes we have long lines because of that. People wait, probably a little bit longer than you would in a normal theater, but for the most part have heard it's worth the wait. So.
Well, my name's Trent Ford. I'm the youngest of 3 brothers that grew up here with our dad owning the business. So, and when he died in 1981, he owned the Skyline Drive-In. And of course, there are several other theaters that he was involved with over the years, whether it be ownership or management. But he was a lifelong movie theater buff, and as brothers, we got the benefit of being able to grow up in a place like this. Obviously, we're in rural Kentucky. Since the drive-in reopened in 2002, there have probably been some nights that have surpassed those, because I know we had to have 2 showings one night of Coal Miner's Daughter to accommodate everybody.
I'm going to have to say it was definitely the new IT. We had close to 800 plus people here in one single evening. We had to shut the gate. Sheriff's Department was directing traffic. It was a madhouse out here. It was a really good night. We're in the middle of nowhere. It's quiet. You can have a good time. It's just one of those places where there's not a lot of that left in America.
Apparently, there are people taking pictures of old drive-ins that were closed, and he came up and reopened it. And then in 2016, my brother Tim decided to get involved with it and bought him out. And so Mike and Christy that are running it work for Tim and in some of his other business ventures, and then they come up here on weekends and run the movie theater. So it tickles me to death. I get to see free movies.
Good evening and welcome everyone to Skyline Drive-In. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out this evening on this beautiful end of July. We've got a great show for you this evening, but before we get our first feature started, I'd like to go over a few house rules.
We're still in the learning process and trying to come up with what's working and what people want. And when it works, we'll keep bringing it back.
10 years ago, did you ever think you'd be running a drive-in?
Not a clue, no. Wasn't even top 100 things, wouldn't have made it.
Has it been a big learning process? Or
Extremely, and which has made it all that much more fun. You learn a lot of things about the industry you don't know, and the processes that just you wouldn't think goes on in the theater business. But it's been very educational and extremely fun at the same time. It's a lot of work, but it's enjoyable.
In 1954, the Calvert Drive-In opened its gates, and a member of the Harrington family has been running it ever since. Calvert City, located in the Jackson Purchase region of the state, hosts the only drive-in that is open every night of the week throughout the summer. Not only is the Calvert Drive-In loved for its long history, but also for its locally legendary concessions, which has its own car line for those not attending the night show.
The first night I came in here, we moved in '54. We lived in Tennessee, and Daddy moved us up here after the first year. But we'd been here, in '53. But I went in the back door, and I never forget, one of the popcorn boys says, "Boys, you got the wrong door." I said, "No, my daddy owns the joint."
That makes a difference.
I was 11 years old. My name is Steve Harrington, and I've been in the drive-in business since 1953, really, when I built it. I was 11 years old. Well, I was 53. Yeah, I was 11 when I built it. But I've been in the show business all my life. My dad worked for a chain in West Tennessee before we built the drive-in. He worked for that company for 27 years. So he was projectionist before sound. So he started out as a popcorn boy when he was 12 in 1922. And he and my mom got married in 1927, and it was still silent movies. So she's been in the show business. She still owns the drive-in. She's been in business since the days of no sound. Over the years, I've worked other jobs, and then I've helped run the drive-in. I would come in from my job, and if they were short-handed, I'd help in the concession stand, whatever need to be done. So Mike and I both have worked full-time jobs and helped run the drive-in. And after my dad died, Mike and my mom were in it for a year or so, and then my older brother came in and he started helping manage. That was about 5 years of that. In '93, I had to change jobs, and I'd gotten too old for the job I had. And I came home one day and I told my mom, I said, "I got to find me an easier job. I'm getting too old for what I'm doing." I was a sailboat rigger. I came back to manage, and it's changed a lot since then. 2003, we built a new screen. The old screen was 50 years old, and it was way overdue of being replaced. It needed to be replaced in the early '70s, but the economics of the show business, it was just wasn't feasible. And so in 2003, it was either close up or build a screen. And I had things going in the right direction.
My name's John Harrington. This is Calvert Drive-In Theater. I've been here, well, all my life, I guess. The drive-in was built in 1953 by my grandparents, and we have all 4 generations, my kids, my dad and his mom, the original owner, still working. So been lots of sellout crowds to watch come and go, and lots of good movies. And yeah, well, yes, we're famous for our hamburgers. We try to do them just like Granny did them back in the beginning, and it's just fresh ingredients, you know, not messed with. It's as little as possible, and just cooked right and made to order. So
we try to make the best food we can. And John's hobby is a chef. He's actually a pretty good chef. But the hamburgers is what's kept this place going. We've got a reputation for our hamburgers, cheeseburgers, and we always use fresh meat, make our own patties, fresh bread, and we've got a special way of cooking. And people try to replicate it, but they can't.
Family secret.
Yeah, there's a big secret to that.
On a sellout night, I try to head up to the road at about 280 cars, put the full sign up at 300, and then, you know, somebody's always coming in to sit with somebody else or something like that. But getting cars in here, 300 is a good full number, but we've had 412, and we don't want that many. You know, I want everybody to have a good time, and you can only get so many sardines in the can, and then, you know, things start getting messy. So
the longest line I've ever seen to get in was about 2 or 3 years ago. The line went out from the box office to the highway, and I've seen it up the hill up to the cemetery, but it went all the way to the red light. It's US 62. And they had to call the fire department out there to direct traffic. Now that's the longest line that's ever been to get in.
That's a big line.
Yeah.
That's a real big line.
Over a mile.
About 2011 or 12, we saw a dramatic increase, and I don't know if the internet and advertising did that, or but I mean, we've got regular customers that come from an hour and a half or 2 hours away every other weekend. We get a new movie each week and hold one and get a new one. And I'm at Fort Campbell, Hopkinsville. You know, I remember 10 years ago, there was a family that came from Peoria twice a month, all summer long. You know,
bands played here. And another thing we did, John did, we put in a satellite system where we could receive stuff by satellite and put on the screen, and we had a live performance on screen that was telecast from Texas. We had the Jimmy Buffett show, one of the few drive-ins, I think it was like 47 drive-ins or something like that, nationwide, that had it live. We had a different set of customers than what we usually see. A lot of them were gray-headed, and some of them were wearing grass skirts and coconut bras, and I don't know what they were drinking, but they're having a good time.
No doubt.
Value of the entertainment. You've got some time with your family. If it's not too crowded, you know, and somebody's running their car next to you, you know, you can have a real good time and make some good memories. But the value, I think, is the main thing driving that.
It's not an easy business to run, but there's not any business that's easy to run. Main thing's to run the business you like.
That's right.
I'd say I was raised up in it. I just appreciate their customers. Without them, we don't have a drive-in. And we try to please everybody. Of course, you can't please everybody, but we try.
I was a bit surprised when I pulled into the Franklin Drive-In and met the owner, Gary Price, dressed as a vampire directing traffic, but quickly realized he's a man who loves his job. The Franklin Drive-In, just a few miles from the Tennessee border, has been owned and operated by Gary and his family since 2009. The sprawling paved drive-in was filled with cars on the evening I visited, and it was evident that Gary's mission was to make sure moviegoers had an excellent experience.
We are right on the Kentucky-Tennessee line, so people know us as a Kentucky drive-in, but we get a lot of support from Tennessee. People drive up from Nashville, which is roughly 40, 50 miles away. People come from northern parts of Kentucky. I have a lady that comes every year from Louisville, Kentucky, and she writes me or calls me and asks me when the gates are. She said, okay, now I'm on Louisville time, tell me when to be there, and she comes every year. Welcome to Franklin Drive-In. How are you guys? When you park, white poles only, pull in or back in, it doesn't matter, leave room for another vehicle beside you. Got any kids in the back? Blah, 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 blah. All right, any outside food or drink? All right, y'all have a great time. Let me try to get out of that sun.
Because you're a vampire.
That's right. Welcome to the Franklin Drive-In. I'm in character tonight. We are showing Hotel Transylvania 3 Summer Vacation. And I'm on vacation, but I came in just to talk to you guys. We've been open since 1969. We're only the second family to own the theater, so we take a lot of great pride in that. And the great thing about this is from our concession stands to our projection booth to our box office, people come back year after year to work here and to visit our place. Some people have said they've been coming since the 70s to our theater, so we're very fortunate to have that. We are a single screen. We hold about 500 cars. Tonight, you'll look at the footage. We're getting close to 250, 300 cars tonight, so we're very happy for that. And we changed over to digital in 2013, and we've been very happy for that. The picture's much brighter. You know, the car speakers, now you hear the lady screaming and the helicopter in the back and the gunfire. So we think we're just as good as an indoor theater, and actually better. You can come here, you can be with family and friends, and what I say is you come to the drive-in to make memories, and that's what it's all about. You walk into the indoor theater and you shuttle back out, you say that was a great movie, and that's about all you say. But here you talk about when Uncle George dropped the popcorn in his lap, and you got a memory for life. Blah, 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 blah. I don't say blah, 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 blah. Welcome to Franklin Drive-In. When y'all park, white poles on. Well, we've been in the 600s. We parked them off to the side and all of that. So this place will hold a lot of people. But to get every truck and high-rise van and SUV in here, it takes a little bit of work. But yeah, we've had that many before.
Well, any one particular movie that people came out to see?
A lot of the Disneys, the Toy Stories, and a lot of the animated movies. I would say those are probably number one because we probably focus on being family oriented as much as we can. Well, sometimes when you have 200 cars, you get, 27 complaints. And sometimes when you have 500 cars, you don't get any complaints. But there was one night 2 years ago, I think, 1 year ago. A lady was taking a picture of the electricity, the lightning bolts behind the screen, and it went viral for around here. And it came up just the other day as a memory. And the great thing about it is that night everything survived, but the next night, which was a Saturday night, we didn't know until we had nearly sold the place out that the projector was not going to work again. And we think it was because of all the lightning that we had. Hello, thanks for coming. White poles only, pull in or back in, it doesn't matter. Leave room for another vehicle behind you, okay? And beside you. Any outside food or drink? All right, good deal. All right, see you. It probably sounds kind of hokey, but we treat people the way we want to be treated. We welcome them back. We know many of them by their name. We know their kids. We know that they're having a birthday in August or because we see them every year. And so I think a lot of things today are too commercialized, and we've tried very hard not to take that out of there. You got 12 minutes at least if you need to go to the restroom or concession stand. And thank you so much for coming out. Everybody get tuned in, and we'll be ready to go shortly.
Awesome.
All right. Well, next year, I want you to do an update on us because we will be in our 50th year. We're going to have our big 50th anniversary t-shirts. We're going to do a lot of fun stuff, and we would love to see you back here. It's probably not an individual memory of a night that a movie was playing, but my individual memory is that, as I told you earlier, we hire a lot of young people that come back year after year after year. I've seen kids start at 15 in the summer as their first job, and I've seen them graduate college. And that's just amazing to me that we can build that bond. You know, when you work at other places, it might not be the same. And I just love that. They come by here and get their prom pictures, their graduation pictures. And we're not everything to look at, but there's a lot of memories here. Fun, okay? Thanks, y'all have a great time. All right, come see me at the movie, right? All right.
To paraphrase what F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote in The Great Gatsby about the summer months, I had that familiar conviction that life was beginning over again with the summer. The summer seemed to bring life, energy, and excitement to the back roads that lead to your nearest drive-in theater. I didn't know what to expect when I pulled into the first theater with my gear. In the back of my mind, I thought I would discover a bygone pastime that was barely hanging on. The thoughts I came out with after the first theater and all those that followed was that while several factors have led to the reduction in the number of theaters, the drive-in business I saw was booming. Every theater I traveled to had large crowds, cars in a ticket line, people waiting for concessions, and children filled with excitement to see a movie on the big screen at dark. The crowds were largely families, all coming out to share a unique experience that a young one would never forget. I watched as the owners filled drinks, buttered popcorn, sold tickets, directed cars, and still managed to make sure the movie started right at dark. I gained a lot of respect for the people who keep these wonderful gyms running and relevant in the digital age. I appreciate each and every one of them for keeping the drive-in experience alive for future generations to enjoy. The drive-in theater is by no means going away. As long as people like you continue to support drive-in theaters, I can assure you the passionate folks running them will be there to keep the gates open for future generations. If we all take the time to relax a few hours in front of the illuminated screen, surrounded by those we love, and just slow down long enough, even for just one night, we just might be better off for it on the other side. So here's to you, drive-ins. Let's hope that your screen will forever be lit when the sun goes down.